Well, that was super fun. A 55-point victory for our Duke Blue Devils. What a win.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us today on Wednesday, November 12th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. Excited to break down the win today for Duke over Army as the Blue Devils won by 55 points, 114 total points scored for Duke, with 6 different players in double figures. We're going to break it all down on our show with Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham, who was there in the building in West Point. So excited to break that down with him. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Go ahead and like this video, share it with your friends as you watch us here on YouTube, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we continue to grow our audience. A special shout out to all of you everydayers out there. You know who you are, and thank you for all your support in making Locked On Blue Devils the podcast that it is each and every day. So without further ado, Kevin Connelly is here in the building for the Veterans Day evening game that Duke had against Army, and what a fun game it was to watch on TV. Kevin, I can only imagine what it was like to be there covering it live in person.
Yeah, JJ, it was really crazy. It was a lot of fun. I had never been here before to West Point, so got here a little bit early. Didn't do a tour, but did my own mini tour of walking around and visiting some of the buildings and sites and everything here at West Point. So it was a lot of fun. The atmosphere was great. This is what college basketball is supposed to be meant for, with all the cadets lining up both baselines and going crazy before the game. It was just a really, really cool atmosphere. And then obviously the pregame ceremony, which I'm sure they showed some of on TV, honoring Coach K. He was here. They unveiled a banner for him with his most wins in D1 history. He gave a speech to everybody in attendance. So, yeah, it was just a really, really cool evening, and well done by both teams, and especially Army for hosting this.
Yeah, I love that Coach K was a part of the festivities. A lot of people expected once the announcement was made that this game would be played at West Point that would be the case. Again, only the second time ever that Duke has played there. It was an attendance record for an Army home basketball game. Nearly 6,000 people there in the building, and certainly from the TV product, you could tell it was so packed. A lot of Duke Blue in the building as well, with folks getting excited by some of the runs that Duke was going on throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the one thing I did notice getting here early, a little before 4 o'clock, was that there was a lot of Duke jerseys and Duke sweatshirts walking around West Point this afternoon. And that's kind of what I expected. I mean, when Duke comes to the New York area, they always have a big presence, whether it be Madison Square Garden or the Barclays Center, or even last year we found out in the NCAA tournament with the Prudential Center. So there was a lot of Duke Blue up in the upper rafters here of Crystal Arena. But yeah, it was cool, and they weren't that loud. I will say that. I think the cadets kind of drowned them out because they were locked in for the full 40 minutes, even in the second half when this game very much got out of hand. So it was a really cool atmosphere from both sides and all the way around.
Yeah, really fun to watch. And talking about that cadets basketball and Army in particular, the shot making we saw early was incredibly impressive. And that's really when you heard it in the building. Some of the tough 3-point shots that Army was able to make kept them in the game. Duke was matching them shot for shot. A couple of games early in the season, we'd been thrown off by some of the slower starts there for Duke, but really, really impressive by the shot making from Army early.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. Like, Duke never trailed in this game. Like, they score on the opening possession, and then like they were off and rolling. They never trailed. But in that first half, and you knew Army, a team that likes to shoot a lot of threes, they're going to be fired up. Duke is in their house. They have a sold-out gym. All the cadets are in attendance and going crazy. You knew that they were going to come out hot. They were going to hit some big shots. They were going to get the crowd into it. They were going to get everybody involved. And they really did. They had a couple of really tough three-pointers early, forced a couple of turnovers. Anytime they stopped Duke or held them to one shot and a rebound and pushed the ball up the floor, the crowd would get so much into it. So yeah, I tip my cap to Army. They came out, they were well prepared, they're well coached, and they were in this. Now, unfortunately for them, is that they were at a significant disadvantage for just about everything you look for in a basketball player and team. Duke was bigger, Duke was stronger, Duke was faster, but this is a game beyond that. This is a team beyond that in Army, and they gave it their all for the full 40 minutes, and they didn't stop until that final buzzer sounded, and their fellow cadets, they continued to cheer them on and press them on for the full 40 minutes. So it
Yeah.
was just really, really cool to watch and see, because we've never seen this before, JJ. Anytime these two teams have played, as you mentioned, that it's been almost 30 years since Duke has been up here. I mean, it's been at Cameron, so you don't have that presence of cadets or anything, and Duke gets up big, and you can kind of just tune out. But this was a game that, even though the score was lopsided, you always wanted to watch down to the final whistle.
Yeah, it was really fun to watch it play out for Duke. I want to get to the star of the game for the Blue Devils, and we got to start with someone who we haven't highlighted as much throughout the course of the season. How about the play that Duke got out of Dame Sarr? 21 minutes of action, finished with 19 points on the day, 3 steals, 3 rebounds, knocked down shots from the outside. He played above the rim. There were several runouts and dunks that he was able to have after scoring just 2 points against Western Carolina. He goes off for 19, by far his best scoring output that he's had so far in a Duke uniform.
Well, yeah, JJ. I mean, he's only had 10 total points coming into this game as a Blue Devil. And he goes for 19 points. And in that first half, he was in a groove. And it was the Dame Sarr you had expected to see from game one, or kind of the Dame Sarr you expected that Duke was getting in the preseason, and the buzz that was generated from him in the preseason. And everything he did was a positive for Duke. Every time he touched the ball, it was either a made three, or it was generating points on an assist, or getting to the free throw line. So I think Dame Sarr, I'm not going to say this was his coming out party, because you still want to see a performance like this against a similar opponent in terms of talent. But this was certainly a major positive step in the right direction for Dame Sarr. And I talked to him after the game, and he was saying, like, yeah, like the coaching staff had walked me through this, and they knew there was going to be some struggles, and I was going to have to get adjusted. And, especially defensively is what he really tried to lock in on. And that was a talking point throughout the week after that last game against Western Carolina. And happy for him that it came to the forefront here tonight.
Big time performance for Dame Sarr. Again, 19 points. He made 3 of 5 3-point shots on the day, 4 of 6 from the free throw line. So do want to continue to clean up a little bit of that free throw shooting from Dame Sarr, but really love the length and defensive ability that he was able to have to create some of those runouts. The other guy that really got Duke going early was Isaiah Evans, who finishes 4 of 8 shooting from 3-point range. Slim finished the game with 17 points there for Duke, threw some lobs to Sarr, and I thought Isaiah Evans bounced back well after not making a single 3-point shot against Western Carolina. Here we go, he makes 4.
Life of a shooter, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have your ups and your downs in your games where your shots aren't falling, and then on the opposite side, you're going to have games like this where a lot goes right. And it's so fun to watch him up close and personal out on the floor, because like nothing phases him. Like, there was some trash talking out there among the players, among the cadets, and some of the Duke players, and it was mostly focused around Isaiah Evans. And he just goes out there and hoops, man. Like that's what he does. And yeah, I caught up with him after the game too, and it's like, how has your confidence changed, or how much more confident are you feeling? And this is almost word for word. He was like, I'm the same guy. I always knew I was that dude. I always knew I was that guy that could score. It was just that wasn't his role last year, and it is his role this year. So he has the utmost confidence. And JJ, we've talked about this going back to the summer and the offseason, where it's like he could be 0 for 15. He shoots that 16 shot, he thinks it's going in.
Yeah.
That's just how he's wired.
Yeah. It's fun to watch. Slim put him up and played really well. Again, 114 total points for Duke in their victory over Army. They allowed just 59, and Duke wins by 55 points over the Black Knights there in West Point. All right, we'll step aside for our first time out here on the program today. More Locked On Blue Devils in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, forward we go here on the show. Again, Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham's here with us. He was in the building for the game that Duke had against Army. This is our Wednesday episode of the podcast this week, talking about the 55-point victory for Duke. All right, let's talk three-point shooting, man, because there have been some stretches throughout the course of the year so far in two games where Duke can't buy a shot from the outside, and then there are stretches where, oh my goodness, are they ever going to miss? This had a little bit of both. Season-high 16 makes for Duke from three-point range.
Yeah, I think in the first half they got 3-point happy because that's Army's game, right? Army knew the only chance they had at staying in this game was just being unconscious from 3-point range. And I think Duke bought into that a little bit in the first half. And now they were making them, right? I think they started 4 or 5 from 3-point range, and Isaiah Evans and Dame Sarr certainly played major factors in that. But, you know, in a game like this, I think you want to see them get the ball inside a little bit more and utilize the big presence of Cameron Boozer. But certainly when you're able to make 16 of 37 attempts from 3-point range, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. So that's what they did here tonight. And the ball movement, they were getting Army off their spot as they're folding up the bleachers over there to my left, if you can hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were working the ball around the perimeter. Army was being aggressive. Army knew they had to sell out just about every single time, whether it was to force a steal or create a turnover or something like that. And Duke I thought they were really good and they were patient. 25 assists on 37 made field goals, and a lot of that came on 3-point range as they're just continuing to roll, closing up those bleachers over there. So I'll give it back to you, JJ.
Absolutely. Really good performance from Duke shooting from the outside. As you see there, they went 12 for 49, did Army. You talked about how many 3-point shots they wanted to make. Really impressive that Duke's defense was playing them so tough. They kept firing them. Shots weren't necessarily falling. But again, 12 3-point makes for the Black Knights. Pretty impressive stuff there. You talked about points in the paint, though. It was a slower start from Duke in that area. But then as the game went further along, the lobs opened up for Patrick Ngongba and Maliq Brown around the rim. Duke finished a 42-18 advantage there with points in the paint.
Yeah, JD, it kind of felt like they finally realized, hey, we have a major size advantage in this game. And the fact that Army is being so aggressive, we can use that to our advantage because when we screen and they come out, we can just throw it up and it's an easy dunk. And you even saw in the second half where they were just saying, hey, our guys are bigger than you, and we're just throwing up to the rim and let Pat Ngongba go up there and make a couple of plays where he finishes 6 for 12. I don't know about you, JJ, but like maybe it's time for the Pat Ngongba 3-point experience to be reeled in a little bit. He goes 0 for 3 from 3-point range, but certainly I thought he got a lot better as the game went on. Just it felt like Army being so aggressive and kind of trying to punch Duke in the mouth. It felt like that kind of hurt him, and he wasn't necessarily ready for that type of an aggressive game. But as it gone on, I thought he did get a lot better.
Yeah, the shot looks impressive for Ngongba. Like, you know, and we saw the make that he had against Tennessee, and I know the coaches are really encouraging that. I can only imagine what it feels like, Kevin, when the rest of your teammates are shooting as well as they are within a game. Big Pat just wanted to get involved in the action himself as well. But you're right, maybe rein it back just a little bit. Someone who doesn't need – go ahead.
Teams are going to give it to him, though. That's going to be the tempting part. Like, if Duke is going to beat you because Pat Ngongba hits 3 threes, the other team tips their cap, shakes your hand, and says, good game, well done. So, like, it's going to be there for him. And it's just going to be how willing is he going to be to continue to attempt it, even though he necessarily hasn't had the results he's been looking for so far this year.
Yeah, and he knows he can make it. The coaching staff is probably telling him to do that. So the shots, that is going to be something really interesting to kind of watch play out the rest of the year. Same for Maliq Brown, who made 2 3-pointers against North Carolina last year in Chapel Hill, made 4 total on the season. He's taken a couple of looks so far, already made a few on the year as well. But Darren Harris, 5 3-pointers in this game. A couple of them, Kevin, I don't even know that he caught the basketball, if that makes sense, with how quickly that ball immediately got out of his hand. It looked like it was just one fluid motion, catch and shoot all in one, and he's able to drain it.
It's kind of funny you say that because I was watching him during pregame warmups, being like on the court, and Duke was warming up literally 5 feet in front of me. And the way coaches would pass him the ball or teammates would pass him the ball, it was very similar. Like he catches it, and like before the ball even hits his palms, he's going up with it. And you saw that. Now, a couple of those threes did come late, and he caught fire. I feel like everybody did in the second half. When you score 65 points in the second half, a lot of things go right for you, and you're making a lot of 3-pointers. But I think it was another step in the right direction for him. You want him to be a floor spacer. You want him to be somebody who can hit 3-pointers coming off the bench, and he showed it here tonight against Army.
I'm excited for Darren Harris. Buy stock. I've been telling people that all along, that he's been doing amazing things for the Duke basketball team, and I think he's going to continue to do that as well. Here we are late in our conversation again, moments after Duke wins 114-59, a 55-point victory for Duke, and we've yet to really highlight the star of the Blue Devils this season in Cameron Boozer, who finishes with 15 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. I mean, he is a stat sheet stuffer already. And you talked about size a little bit earlier as well. Just nobody could contend with Boozer's size on the interior.
No, they couldn't. And even 25 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists in the last game against Western Carolina. These are the games where, like, Duke doesn't necessarily need Cameron Boozer to be an All-American, but he finds himself to have a stat line like this regardless. Like you mentioned, 15, 9, 4, a couple of blocks and steals as well. So, I mean, this kid is the real deal. We talked about it going back to the offseason, in the preseason, during the exhibitions. It was on display. I mean, Cameron Boozer is going to be as steady as there is of a player in the country this season, even in that game against Texas where he doesn't score in the first half. He has a great second half and helps Duke come from behind to win that game. So this kid's legit. This kid's going to do what is needed to do to win because, as we said, he is just a flat-out winner going back to his high school and basically his entire young career so far.
Yeah, 6 of 6 from the free throw line. He's getting fouled because he's so big, and I love that early in the season we're seeing a bunch of makes coming from Cam Boozer as well. Want that trend to continue for him. A Duke team, by the way, who, yes, we've highlighted the struggles that Dame Sarr has had from the free throw line. How about going 24 for 29 from the charity stripe in this game? They're getting fouled a lot through their first 3 games of the season. I'm pretty impressed with how confident Duke is shooting it at the line.
Well, and that's a good thing because they are so big, they are so physical. They do want to get downhill when they're not shooting 3-pointers. So in turn, you are going to get fouled a lot. And the fact that this team seems like they can be able to step to the line and hit free throws is a big development. Even go back to that Tennessee game, and they were able to salt that exhibition game away at the free throw line. So that's not going to go down in the stat sheet when you look at this team's free throw numbers, but we saw it happen just a couple of weeks ago. So keep that in mind as well.
All right, now that we've talked about the interior, the free throw shooting, and some 3-point shots from the outside, definitely got to set up a conversation about the lead guard spot for Duke. It's going to be a year-long discussion, I'm sure, between Cayden Boozer and Caleb Foster. It's already been that way. Let's continue it when we continue here in a moment. Yes, Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see the parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Supply House is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, Locked On Blue Devils continues here today on this Wednesday episode, recapping the Tuesday night victory for Duke over Army. Want to talk Caleb Foster and Cayden Boozer. Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham is here with me. He's in the building there. As we look at Cayden Boozer, finishes with 10 points on the day, a game-high 8 assists. Really did a great job sharing the rock. 20 minutes of action for Caleb Foster, 6 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, in this game, I don't know that there's really a crazy negative that you could highlight for either of the players when so far in the exhibitions in the first 2 games of the season, you might have been able to do that here and there a little bit with some of these guys. I don't know about you, Kevin. I was really impressed by both guys and how they played.
Yeah, so was I. I think, and I shouldn't maybe say it this way, but like something just didn't seem right with Caleb Foster tonight. Like even in the first half, that Cayden Boozer got more minutes than him. I don't know if it was an injury or maybe he wasn't feeling well or something.
Yeah.
It just seemed like something wasn't there with
Only
Caleb
took
Foster
3
tonight.
total shots in the game.
Yeah, but like when he was on the court, he was fine, and you didn't really notice anything standing out to him. But just like sometimes, whether it was a free throw and the way he was hunched over, or way he was sitting and kind of maneuvering on the sidelines and on the bench, I don't know. I just thought maybe something wasn't right with him tonight. Maybe he is dealing with something, and I mean he does only play 20 minutes, and maybe. But that was just me sitting and watching him. I thought maybe there's something not quite right with him, but. For Cayden Boozer, I think it was a step in the positive direction. Again, he had the great game against Western Carolina. He follows it up with another nice game here against Army. And the old saying is, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, right? I don't think you can say that with basketball and a point guard because both guys are going to play. That's the number one thing with Duke. Like both Caleb Foster and Cayden Boozer are going to play on this team. Now, tonight, it's Cayden Boozer who gets more minutes than a guy like Caleb Foster. But I still think both of them played very, very well. I think in a game like this, they did exactly what Duke wanted them to do. And for Cayden Boozer, you want to see his next steps, and I'm sure he'll probably have another pretty good game on Friday night against Indiana State. But what is it going to be like when he plays against Kansas or Arkansas, Florida, Michigan State? You go down the list of this loaded schedule. What's he going to look like then? And I think then you'll be really able to make a good determination about who should be getting more minutes at point guard going forward, Caleb Foster or Cayden Boozer.
Yeah, it's going to be fun because, like we said, it's not our first time talking about this dynamic. It's not going to be our last. We even saw more minutes of both of them out there on the floor together, and a bit of an extended conversation here in regards to Sebastian Wilkins, now likely to redshirt for this team. I know that we hadn't seen him play in action so far. That's just 9 guys, though, for Duke going into this season, and there could be foul trouble situations or dynamics there where you are going to need both Boozer and Foster to coexist together out there on the floor. And given Foster's knack for attacking the rim, scoring, shooting from the outside, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing we'll see more of them out there together.
Yeah, 100%. And I kind of said the same thing that you did about the Sebastian Wilkins situation. And I get the idea of redshirting him, and I do think it's probably the safe move. But there's risk to it, and the fact that we're saying he's going to redshirt, if Duke has 2 or 3 injuries, knock on wood that doesn't happen, and you look up and you're in January and the dog days of ACC play or whatever, like it can be burnt.
Yeah,
I mean,
we've seen it before.
We've seen it with Joey Baker, like freshman coming in, not expected to get a lot of time, redshirt him. Oh, you look up, it's February. You're in a game at Syracuse. You have a couple of guys down due to injury, and Coach K throws him out there, and it's like, well, there goes the red shirt. So, yes, I think it's smart. I think the grand scheme of things, it's good to preserve those 4 years of eligibility. But with not just 9 guys in this rotation right now, you hope nothing unforeseen happens that he has to play.
Really, the last guy I don't think that we've necessarily highlighted so far in our breakdown here tonight, Kev, is Nick Hamenya, the other freshman for Duke, who finishes this game with 8 points, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, went 1 for 2 from the free throw line, did make a three-pointer, had a nice drive and finish. What did you think of us getting to see him in person for the first time in a Duke uniform?
Well, the stats back up his play, but I continue to say he's going to do the stuff that doesn't show up in the box score. And he does tonight, though, with 8 points and 6 rebounds. I think, I think for him, you want to see the 3-point shot come a little bit more consistently. I mean, he goes 1 for 3 tonight against the Army. Throughout this season against Texas and Western Carolina, 1 for 2, 2 for 6. So he's hovering around that 33 to 40% range from 3-point range. And if he can do that and be somebody who the defense really has to think about outside, I think that'll get him more playing time. Because if you're rolling with a group of forwards like Evans and Sarr, even though he's more of a wing guard-ish type player, and then Hamenya off the bench, not to mention the firepower you have inside of Cameron Boozer and Pat Ngongba, then this team, who is already really good offensively, becomes just even more lethal.
Yeah, I'm elated to see more of Nick Hamenya and getting more comfortable in all different areas of the floor in his game and that sort of thing. All right, so Indiana State coming up on Friday for Duke and Cameron. And then they're going back up there, right back up to MSG to take on Kansas in the Champions Classic. What do you think of this next stretch coming up for Duke here, Kevin?
I think it might have been Dick Vitale who said it on a broadcast of that Texas game. Is Larry Bird playing for Indiana State? No, so I expect a similar game to what we just saw against Western Carolina and Army. I think Duke wins, and Duke wins comfortably. And then excited to see them against a Kansas team who I know they played on Tuesday night as well, and Darren Peterson didn't play. I think it was reported of a hamstring injury. Now, they still have one more game before they play Duke, so that's something certainly worth monitoring. Peterson, who we've talked about, could be the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft, so that's just something to monitor. But excited to see this team against another formidable opponent in Kansas. I will be there again in Madison Square Garden, so getting to see this team twice in a week span is fun, and just looking forward to that game, which is always a great night of basketball in the Champions Classic, and the fact that it's in Madison Square Garden in New York City, I think puts a little bit more intrigue in it.
Where can everybody find your work, Kevin?
So you can find me at Ball Durham, writing everything about this Duke basketball team. And then you come listen to my podcast, the Believe in Duke Football podcast, where we do talk Duke basketball, despite the name on it. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Spotify, and I'll throw a little plug in there. There's a monster Duke football game. There's a lot of conversation about the ACC as a conference. We're going to be breaking down that. We have an episode also coming out here on Wednesday, and then on Friday we'll get more into that Duke-Virginia matchup. But breaking down Duke basketball, breaking down Duke football. What more could you want, JJ? Just like you have right here, Locked On Blue Devils.
Thanks, man. It's good to see you, Kevin. Thanks for taking time to join us.
Thanks for having me, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on Locked On Blue Devils. They're in the building for Duke's win over Army. You can see they're starting to rack up the arena there, and appreciate folks for staying tuned and watching our show here today, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, the number 1 sports podcast network in the world. As always, make sure that you support us. Go follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast. Go Duke! I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.